Hi, my name is Katie and I had a scary experience when I was 4 years old. That day, my mom picked me up from kindergarten and told me that we would stop by the fruit store before going home. There was some sport activities at school, so I felt really tired and fell asleep on the back seat. When I woke up, I looked outside the window and noticed that it was not the usual road home, and I don't think mom ever drove on that road before. I called my mom and shocked as it was not my mom who drove the car, but an unknown man. I screamed so loud and that guy looked panicked as well. He stopped the car for a while and looked around, but then he continued to drive. I cried and kept asking where my mom was. He told me that his name was Jay and he's my mom's friend. He promised that I would meet my mom soon if I calmed down. I was really scared. I'm sure that I've never seen that man before and he didn't look like any of my mom's friends. We drove far and it looked like we were out of town already. There were only a few cars on the road and I didn't see many houses or buildings. We arrived at a house in the middle of nowhere. All I saw was grass field everywhere. There was no neighbor and it was quite far from the main road. There's no one I could ask for help. Inside the house, there were two scary-looking men, a lot scarier than Jay. Those two men were really surprised to see me. They yelled at Jay, asking who I was and why he brought me there. Jay told me to stay inside a room, and he locked the door. I kept on crying. I felt so lost. I didn't know what to do or what would happen to me. I can hear those guys were keep yelling at each other. It looked like they had a big argument about me. Jay came back to the room and brought me a peanut butter sandwich and a glass of water. He asked me not to cry out loud because he's afraid that those two other men may hurt me. He apologized that he took me into such situation. He told me that he only wanted to steal my mom's car, which parked in front of the fruit shop, and didn't realize I was there. Initially, he wanted to drop me off when he first saw me, but he was scared that he might be caught and decided to keep driving. Jay asked me to wait until his boss came back and promised that he would take me home after he asked for his boss' permission. At that moment, I imagined that the boss might be some kind of a monster. And what if he wouldn't allow Jay to send me home? I wanted to scream, but too afraid to do so. And I knew that nobody could hear me. Jay later asked me to play some video games as we waited for his boss. I got calmed down as I played but couldn't really shake off my fear. It was getting dark and the boss was still not there. I cried and begged Jay to take me home. His face showed some empathy, but he said he was scared of the boss and told me to be patient for a little longer. I saw light coming from the window and heard a car was coming. That must be the boss. My thoughts were really mixed between fear and hope that he would allow me to go home. Jay and the other guys were talking to the boss in the living room. Then the boss scolded Jay really loud. I opened the door to have a peek. I saw a big and mean-looking man there. He turned and looked directly to my face. He screamed, "What are you looking at?" I closed the door and was scared to death. I never felt that scared in my life. But then I heard something that even more terrible. "You cannot send her home. She saw our face and knew our place." I asked Bill to pick her up in the morning. He knows how to deal with it, the boss said. I lost my hope, and suddenly a memory flashed through my mind. It was the news on TV I saw a few days earlier about a young boy that was kidnapped and found dead. Tears kept flowing down my cheek. I thought I was going to die. I froze and eventually fell asleep. Later, I heard a whispering voice asking me to wake up. I opened my eyes and it was Jay. He told me that the other guys were sleeping and it was the only chance to run away. I followed him quietly out of the room and we tiptoed through the living room and finally get out of the house. We went to my mom's car and slowly opened the door. We were lucky that the other guys didn't hear us. I managed to drive away. Jay told me that he had to run away himself. so he couldn't send me home, but he took me to some place where I could get help. We stopped, and Jay asked me to walk straight ahead. He told me that the police station is only 5 minutes away. I walked in fear. It was really quiet and dark, but it was the first promising hope I had that day. Then I was really happy when I finally saw the police station. I ran inside and saw some police officer. I hugged a policewoman and told her what happened. That was the most relieving moment in my life, knowing that I was finally safe. Another policeman called my parents and they arrived within an hour. The police found my mom's car where Jay dropped me off, and they caught the other bad guys from that house. But Jay was nowhere to be found. Although it was really traumatizing experience, and sometimes I still have nightmares about it. I feel lucky that Jay was actually not a very bad person, despite the fact that he was a car thief. I don't know what would happen to me if it wasn't for him. What do you think of my story? I hope none of you would experience such a terrible thing. And for parents, never ever leave your child alone in the car. Comment below and hit the like button if you enjoyed the story. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more stories.